think so.
It's almost a giant.
We're talking to you.
Getting some others.
Well, usually 3, 4.
She did have a meeting, turned into a kind of dropped off at anyone there. Sheltered into cold thing. Making sure it was anchored and I found.
Please stand and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Notice of this meeting was given in advance thereof by publishing one time in the Keith County News and posting at the City Administration Building, as shown by the certificate of posting notice. Notice of this meeting was simultaneously given to the president and all members of the council. Availability of the agenda was communicated in the advance notice and the notice to the president and council of this meeting. All proceedings hereafter will be taken while this convened meeting is open to the attendance of the public. This meeting is being convened in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the southeast corner of the council chambers. Please sign the sign-in sheet located on the table by members of the press. Any person wishing to address the council may do so by standing. If you are recognized, please go to the podium, state your name and the organization, interest, or person you represent before you begin speaking. Thank you. Roll call.
Block,
Here.
Dupierre,
Here.
Holstein,
Here.
Kraske,
Here.
Laughlin, absent.
I moved to give Chris an excuse. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Dupierre to excuse Councilman Laughlin. There's no discussion, please vote.
Four yes, 1 absent.
Motion carried. All right, under our consent agenda, we have claims, we have a license or permit bond for a gas fitter license, Adrian Ulrich, renewal of master plumber license for Dan Hebel.
Move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
Motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Holstein to approve the consent agenda. There's no discussion. Council, please vote.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Motion carried. We have no public hearings tonight. Under public forum, we have conditions of homes in Ogallala. Edward McLaughlin. Mr. McLaughlin, please come to the podium.
Okay, already. I thought these guys might go before me, but. Um,
You're up.
podium.
There you
Okay,
go.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to,
Can you, for the record,
Sure.
just state your name and your address?
sure, my name is Edward McLaughlin. My address, it's not an Ogallala address, but I believe I have standing here. I'm 116 Mako Chimney, Ogallala, Nebraska, 69153.
Thank you.
So anyway, I appreciate your time tonight. I thought long and hard about, and I've been thinking about coming to speak to you all for quite a bit of time and decided it was time and past time. So again, my name's Edward McLaughlin. I live in Keith County about 50% of the time, and I live in Denver about the other 50% of the time. I've been coming to Keith County pretty much for 35 years, camping at Lake McConaughey. Love Ogallala, love Keith County. This place is everything to my family and I, and decided when I got close to retirement that camping was too much work and there were too many crazy people on the other side of the lake. So we bought a house, and we're fortunate enough to buy a house on the lake. So we live on the south side of the lake now. And I retired about 5 years ago. I guess let me back up 1 second. First, I don't want anything in what I'm going to say tonight to be construed of anything less than a strong love for this community. I really love the town. I'm very invested in the town, as you'll find in a moment, but so please do not construe anything I say as a disparaging comment about my disdain for this town, because it's quite the contrary. So I retired about 5 years ago, and since I'm not very good at retirement, and since I retired, I purchased and renovated 10 homes in Ogallala. All were very run down and have required extensive repairs. In fact, I've invested over $1.5 million in much needed housing in this town. And I'm really proud of that because I've taken a lot of pride in everything I've renoed. I put a lot of money in them. I've renoed them the right way. They aren't fast flips for me. I've sold some of them. I still have 4 right now. I sell them if the opportunity presents itself. I've sold houses to tenants and carried the mortgages so they can afford to be first time buyers. And I'm really, I'm good. I like to think I'm good at what I do. I've done some of it in Denver as well, but I really have enjoyed it here, but I can assure you, it has not been an undertaking of significant profitability. But it has been a labor of love. And like I said, the feedback I get from neighbors and my tenants appreciating the kind of houses they get to live in for reasonable rents. It has been really personally very rewarding to me. So I'm here tonight. That said, I'm here tonight because I'm very concerned about the lack of both adequate laws and ordinances governing the maintenance of homes in Ogallala and the acute lack of enforcement of existing ordinances that is desperately needed to improve the quality of neighborhoods in this town. Simply whatever is or is not being done, the number of homes in substantial disrepair, such as lacking paint, excessive junk, abandoned cars, makes many parts of this town more unsightly than even the shadiest neighborhoods in Denver. So I've not seen a neighborhood in Denver that looks as bad as some parts of this town. And I'm just struggling because we spend money on cool murals, we spend money on farmers markets. And I know we have ordinances that are intended to protect some of these and actually preclude some of these situations. But I've seen a zero lack of, essentially what I feel is a zero lack of enforcement my own personal experience in trying to rectify any of these. I'm not out for strong HOAs. That's not what this is about. This is not any intent to make this a Palm Springs of Nebraska. It's very much intended to make this town shine like I know it can shine. I was in Grand Junction 2 weeks ago. I took my elderly father up there. That's his hometown. And I was just in awe of the condition of the houses, same tenure, same vintage as most of the older houses in Ogallala. Neighborhoods look totally different. No junk cars. Houses had paint on them. I saw it, I was just taken aback by the disparity in what I saw in similar houses between Grand Junction, Colorado, which is not a high income town, versus this town. I'm gonna give you some examples. I'm gonna pass some pictures around here shortly. I've taken some pictures of homes. I'm not gonna leave you with the pictures, but I would like to pass them around for you to look at some of the examples. And a lot of this really has kind of come to culmination recently. I bought a house, my 10th house here is over on West 7th Street. I bought this house, started negotiating on it. It was a super cheap flip. I started negotiating on it last fall. I was finally able to come to terms with the house flipper who let it totally go to disrepair. Every pipe in the house was frozen, sewer line broken, it needed everything. This house is sandwiched between a house that has 2 unlicensed junked vehicles that I reported to the city of over a month ago. I saw a notice appear on the front door of that home. I've gotten no word back. I've gotten nothing. The cars are still there. Now, I don't know what's transpired, but from my line of sight, I've seen nothing transpired. The neighbor on the other side of me, first of all, I spent $6,000 putting up a wood privacy fence on the house that I'm renovating now because the yards are so unsightly on both sides of me. I was told that there's an ordinance in Ogallala now that requires the smooth side of a 6-foot wood fence has to face outward. Now, that's not even the rule in any community that I'm aware of in any other town, nicer town in Denver or Lakewood, the city that I live in Denver. Yet I was told that I had to put the nice side of my face pointing out to probably the ugliest alley in town, next door to a house that the whole yard is fenced in fence pallets that are spray painted green, that have been that way for the last 2 or 3 years. So I find myself putting over $100,000 in a house with very unsightly neighbors on both sides. And I feel I have no allies or advocates in even making any remote attempt to help me do any of this. And again, when I show you the pictures, I think you'll see that I'm not speaking about grass that is 1/4 inch too high. There are real issues. So I think, again, I think words, I think oftentimes pictures are much better than words. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna point, the first two pictures, I'm gonna pass them around. I'd like to collect them once they.
Okay, we'll need a copy of those for the,
I don't want them in the record.
then we don't need to see them.
Well, here's my concern. If anyone sees these, I talked to Kevin, the city manager, about this.
We didn't put them in the council packets.
We didn't put them in the council packets. I do not want these I mean,
We'll need a copy for the records.
if you're telling me that any owners of these houses can see that I've shown you pictures of these houses, I'm a little bit worried about that, frankly. I don't know these people. I'm not being petty. I have absolutely no disdain or fear that I'm doing anything wrong here, but honestly, I didn't retire up here to make a bunch of enemies. I just thought you might want to see, but if you don't want to see them, I won't show them to you.
I'm sorry, Mike, I mean,
Yeah, they have to be part of, if they're gonna be reviewed, they gotta be part of,
Okay,
yeah, so.
well, they're color pictures,
You can sure give the addresses and.
I'm not gonna
follow
do
up.
I'm not gonna do that. I have no, I was told that I needed to print them off and pass them around, and that none of the copies were to stay. So is that incorrect?
that's incorrect. They need to be part of the record.
Well, as to the first two photos, I will give you you are welcome to drive by the house that I'm renovating now, and you can see for yourself what I'm dealing with. And they aren't even in the top 10 of these houses that I've got pictures of. Skeletons, guns, trash, unlicensed motorhomes on sidewalks. Just a house without a flake of paint on it, that's been this way, that's located 2 houses down from another house I renovated several years ago. Looks exactly the same. And so I'm just wondering, I would really appreciate this council telling me what they think about what I'm saying. I understand there's 18 districts, as it's been explained to me, that you have somebody come in and police and look around, but it rotates, and then it takes forever to come back around, and so. I guess, again, I guess I won't show you the pictures, but again, my specific request is tonight is I'd like to ask the council how they process and handle complaints that are submitted to the city. I think I know. And the proactive enforcement, if any, of the ordinances presently in effect. Aside from this program that goes around and hires third-party people that come in and nitpick little tiny areas of town and don't look at any of the other areas. So one is, if I call and make a complaint, I can tell you from personal experience, nothing happens. Every once in a while, I refer to the police department, and Officer Troxel will meet me on a location, and we will go through it, and he says he'll talk to them. But I had a house on F Street that it was, I think, probably the 7th reno that I did. And it was rented, the house behind it was rented out to another company, or owned by another rental company in town, that I had sofas on the front porch. I had cars without any front ends on them. I had neighborhood kids coming and dropping feces off in my front yard. Call and call again, went unanswered, or this was never dealt with. Finally, I went and sat in the office of the rental company in town that had this person as a tenant, and finally they took care of it for me. It should not have to come to that for me. It just shouldn't have to be that way. I don't know if in Denver, I make a call to the zoning, or Lakewood, I make a call to zoning, and I've got a complaint, they're within 48 hours. So I guess my question is some ideas that I've had is, why not, my intent, this is totally just conjecture on my part, but my thought is that a lot of these houses are owned by landlords who don't even live in town. I'm aware of several that are owned by people who have inherited them from family or manage them from afar. And my sense is they never, first of all, is there's a problem, they don't get any notices of breaches of ordinance by their tenants. Secondly is, I can tell you what I do on my own houses. I take care of the maintenance of the homes in the summer. I build it into my lease that I'm going to maintain the yard, so I'm insured. So my neighbors know that I'm not a slumlord, that my houses are going to be well maintained. I don't know why there can't be lien rights if on a property or if the situations are remedied. None of this has been done that I know of. And I think you can sense from my talking to you, I don't get it, especially when we're getting a Racino in and we're really trying to make this town pop for people coming here. We've had increases in prices due to those damn Coloradans coming in here. I'm saying that because that was actually meant to be a joke, so you give me a smile. And I'm one of them, but again, I put a lot of money in these houses and I can assure you, I haven't made even close to what I made in the stock market. But if this doesn't get rectified, I'm on 10th here. I'm not gonna do this anymore. It's just too risky to me to feel like I'm going into this alone. And my tenants will tell you that I take great care of these houses. Most jurisdictions require a local agent. If a landlord is domiciled outside of the county or outside of the city, they have to have a local agent here that can take care of landlord tenant, can take care of the necessary reparation or handle these things within a certain amount of time. If this has been even remotely addressed by this council, I'd like to know about it. But I'm done making calls that go unanswered. And again, the address of my house is 605 West 7th. And I would encourage you to drive by it. You can see what I'm dealing with. And West 7th. And it's especially hard because I know one of the gentlemen who lives in one of them is special needs, and I've tried to work with him and tried to be very sensitive. I was told when I reported this that you were authorized to give a citation for only one unlicensed car. Both cars have their windows down. They haven't been licensed in 10 years. The best I was told that the city could do was pick up one of the cars. But again, they're both still there. None of them have been licensed. Nothing's happened. So with that,
I appreciate your comments. We'll take them under advisement. I know that we have discussed, some type of housing standard, even a minimum Section 8 as a starter. Looking at our code enforcement, I feel your pain with the zones that we're doing. It may be something where we look at, targeting the worst instead of zones. But
to me, that would be more appropriate. I'll give you a quick example. Again, some of this is my firsthand experience. I owned the house at 521 West D Street. It was my first house in town that I renovated. Renovated for 4 years, finally decided last summer to sell it because I wanted to buy more and I was getting concerned about not seeing things get any better. But again, I continued to buy another one, so much for that. But I was cleaning the house up and I got a notice from that service that I had a North Platte and said I had a tree branch in my front yard. And I'm looking out at my house. Literally the house across the street where there was a shooting had 4 trucks in the front yard and I'm getting a notice for a tree branch down. And I promptly called them back and I said, I'm in the process of selling it. There was a storm. I'll take the tree, remove the tree branch. But it feels like, again, it just feels so weird. It feels very, there's no transparency as to what's happening with respect to these.
yeah, I don't disagree with your comments, and we are restricted by what statute will allow us to do on these properties. And as I said, we're looking at, we started the code enforcement with this contract, with this third party firm, which has helped. We just need to expand it more, and that may that may be a cost more to the city.
And I don't know if new ordinances are needed. It's just that it just seems like there's just, again, my personal experience just tells me there's nobody that's advocating for me or even addressing my concerns when they do report these things.
Yeah, our ordinance are based on state statute, so
I don't.
that's not Colorado.
No, but I refuse to believe that this town can't do any better. I just can't believe it. I don't believe that Nebraska people are by any nature messier than Colorado people. In fact, I'd argue just the opposite. And I know, I go to Grant, it doesn't look like that. I don't know, Ben, you know, again, they're not. There's a lot of really nice houses across, the next two houses down from me is one of the nicest houses in town. So there's a lot of great people who take great care of their houses here, so please don't hear that I'm trying to paint this with a broad brush. But I would request, I would love you guys to, each and every one of you to drive by my house and drive around the immediate block. Just drive around the block and you'll take 10 pictures of your own. If you go one block around in every direction of my house, you'll come up with 6 of the pictures that I'm bringing you tonight that I think I found another one today. There was a pickup in the front with no front end at all, and it had been there. It hadn't moved any time recently, so.
If I may, I just wanted to maybe hopefully clarify this a little bit. First of all, thank you for coming in and sharing this with us, and I just want you to know, I personally will look into this and see what else we can do.
Thank you.
One of the things I just want you to know that's tricky is Nebraska is a Dillon's Law state. And so what that means is we can only do things that are in the state statute. So yes, we have these ordinances, but when it comes to enforcing them, that's where my understanding is, that's where it gets really difficult for us, because as far as enforcement, we can only enforce to what state statute says we can do. And my understanding of that, it's fairly limited. And that's why we currently have this program that goes section to section to section. So I'm not sure what else we can do, but I'm happy to look into.
I would really appreciate, I'd like to know what that is. And I don't know if it's importing fines or anything, but even simple things like giving notice on a rental house, if there's a complaint. Why can't the owner be notified? The owner should be notified that his tenant has a nuisance.
I believe in the case of a property nuisance, the owner is notified. And then if the situation is not rectified, then we will take action, and then whatever that action costs is put as a lien against the property. Vehicles that's a whole nother issue and a whole nother challenge. That's seems to be somewhat epidemic in our community.
Yeah,
That is a challenge that we are actively trying to figure out how to better address.
But you know, like Brandon Scott's been great to work with. He's tried to be, you know, I think he's a relatively new hire. You know, like one of my properties is a VRBO, and it's probably one of the neatest looking houses in town, and I get rave reviews on my house. But the comment book says again and again and again, great house, but town looks tired. I hear it over and over and over again, and I'm not making this up. And I'm certainly have better ways to spend my Tuesday evening. I have to be in Denver at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, you know, for a doctor's appointment. So I certainly have better things to do and more enjoyable things to do than come do this. So please understand that I'm doing this because I'm very concerned. And I'm just not gonna expose more money in this town, given what I see. So I would appreciate knowing whatever you could do. And I think a follow-up will be very much appreciated, Kevin, in terms of if I report my neighbor and say, can we do something with these cards? I shouldn't have to call 10 times to find out if anything's being done. That notice is still on the front door of the next door neighbor's house, but the cars still remain.
You have my email address, and
Yeah.
that's probably and then what I do when I get those written requests is I will follow up with either planning and zoning or OPD, depending on where they are. And then some of it's just a matter of just staying on top of it, because it is a little bit like whack-a-mole.
I know it is, and I'm not gonna drive around town and make a bunch of complaints against houses that, I'm just not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do what I think the city should be doing. It's not my job, and that's not the kind of person I am, but when it directly impacts my ability to sell or rent my houses.
And some of the properties that we have discussed, we are aware of.
Yeah, I don't know if you're all familiar with where Rankin is. There's a house immediately to the north of that. And that was a hoarder house. It was a hot mess, and it's a gray ranch, and I redid that one. That one I'm real proud of, but it was across the street from an abandoned trailer. And a rental house with a big dumpster on the side of the yard that I was told that a resident big dumpster was permitted to be on the sidewalk of, so the living room will look right out at the dumpster. And I called the city a couple of times, but we can't do anything about it. And there was no construction going on, and what was happening was the custodial service bringing all their garbage to that dumpster every night and throwing it in the dumpster. So it's little pecks at this that have really kind of gotten under my skin. And made me think, "Yeah, maybe this isn't the best way to go." Well, so far I've been lucky because the houses are pretty neat and they tend to sell anyway, but. Anyway,
All I can tell you is we'll look into it. Kevin will
Yeah.
follow up with you.
yeah, and Kevin's been great to talk to. He's been extremely attentive to my calls, and so I do appreciate that, Kevin. So thank you. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Right, moving on, people service update.
Good evening. John Sauer, lead operator representing People Service. Here to present the report and seeing if you guys have any questions.
Very detailed, John. Very. Like it.
This is only for my own curiosity, the USPS no longer able to take the water samples. Is that for everybody in the state that has to do water samples?
Was that for the sewer?
No, the water samples, they can't get them shipped out within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So everybody's having in the state.
The postal service said that they will not take them the night before, and you cannot put a express on it, and so I had to, the only place I have left is FedEx, and that's who I'm using right now, and so far, you know, they're getting it there. We've tried just about everybody. The next step is gonna have to be drive them.
Well, I remember we had some issues where samples got in late too, and we had to take those samples again, because they missed the cutoff and.
I was having really good luck. I don't know what the rules are to use names, but UPS, and they moved their center from North Platte to Sydney. And I had samples that went from here to Sydney, down to Missouri, and they definitely didn't get back to Lincoln in time for the time limit that they had, so I had to quit using them. Post office was doing a really good job until they made the changes. I don't know if just, you guys have asked me before, in the month of April, we installed 27 meters. And this month, usually you guys ask me how training's going. The month of May has not been a real good month for training, because up to the 22nd of May, we have processed 312 locates. And a lot of them locates wasn't just curb stops. A lot of them are multi-block, trying to hook up. A lot of our mains have no tracer wire, and so it's trying to find valves, sewer manholes, line of sight, and trying to protect our system. And so it has been very hectic this month. and pretty well taken two of us out just on locates, for the first part of the month.
That's a lot of locates.
Yeah, normally in the month and you know, this is May now that we're doing these locates, but normally in the month of May, we're ramping up and you can expect 120 or so. So we're definitely, it's taken a lot of time.
Any other questions for John? Nice report, John. Thank you.
Thank you guys, have a good evening.
Thanks, John.
Okay, moving on, report of city clerk treasurer minutes of a regular meeting held May 13th, 2025.
You did not get a motion in your memo, but I think you can probably do one.
I think we can. I'll weigh in.
You need a motion?
Yes, yes, sir.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held May 13th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Councilman Dupierre to approve the minutes, almost screwed it up, the minutes of May 13th, 2025. There's no discussion, please vote.
3 yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent.
Motion carried. All right, moving on, community development, Rendezvous Square Management Agreement, second.
Mr. President, this was on as, I think, under public forum at one particular time. I think the council was in agreement at that, under that public forum discussion to move ahead with increasing the management fees on the Rendezvous Square agreement from 2,000 to 4,000. That does not change the budgetary allocation. It just changes the management fees allocation, and then just some other minor things that the chamber wanted on that agreement. I am recommending that we move forward with that for this particular. We have a lot of confusion over the rendezvous agreements that's being reconciled, the one that we're in place now, and the agreement we're looking at going forward. This is for this summer's Sounds on the Square Rendezvous Square management. That is yet expenses that we're just beginning to incur.
But with this amendment, it ties several of these agreements.
Well, it's specific to the one that is currently in action.
I would move to approve amendment to the Rendezvous Square Management Agreement.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Holstein and a second by Councilman Dupierre to approve the Rendezvous Square Management Agreement. There's no further discussion. Please vote.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Motion carried. Thank you. Under sewer and wastewater, amending sewer disposal contractor special fee schedule, resolution 2267.
Mr. President, at the last council meeting, we were looking to better specify how we charge for dumping of sewer into the manhole out there. At that particular time, we were looking at $80 per thousand or partial thousand. After discussion, the council's recommendation was to go to $40 per 500 or partial thereof. And this fee schedule amendment reflects that.
I like the wording on this now, where you have measured upon tank size or visually verifiable gauge.
So just to clarify, if somebody comes in with a 800-gallon tank and they do not have a visually verifiable gauge, they will be charged for
For $80.
$80.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
And I don't think we want our guys up there with the dipstick measuring that stuff.
Absolutely not.
And we really did change, other than the minimum, 540, because it still costs you $80 for 1,000.
Yep.
If I get reads.
I like it.
The compromise.
I would introduce resolution 2267 and move for its adoption.
A resolution amending sewer disposal contractors' special fee schedule. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Block and a second by Councilman Holstein. There's no further discussion. Please vote.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Resolution. What are we, 2267 or 12? 2267 is adopted. Resolution 2267 is adopted. Okay, water, repair, maintenance of water tanks.
Mr. President, these are pretty important assets and pretty expensive assets to the city of Ogallala. This is our water storage tanks. It's both our elevated tanks and our ground storage tanks. Prior to our agreement with People Service, we've been working with Viking and with companies such as Viking and McGuire and on maintenance agreements. We put out a proposal 2 months ago, requesting proposals for this maintenance agreement. It's over an extended period of time, which it helps us with our budgeting and our future forecasting. We received 3 proposals. They were scored by Jane, myself, and representatives from People Service, with Viking getting the winning score on the proposals. The total cost, recommending going for total cost yearly option 1, over the 5-year period is $274,525.
I apologize, I'm the new guy on the block and I haven't yet been through a budget cycle. The only thing I was curious about is, it looks like we're looking at the option 1. Which you pay a certain amount year 1, year 2, you pay more, year 3, you pay less. Is there an advantage to doing it that way over just doing a 5-year equal spread from a budgeting standpoint, or do we do that in-house? I guess what I'm saying is, I'd hate for, year 1, we budget a low amount, year 2, we have to increase our budget, 3 times.
I think from a capital expenditure, Austin, knowing what we're paying for on each on each year is helpful. So that way, we know we're doing this work as outlined in this proposal of that particular.
I think what you're asking, and I may be wrong, but it's like, why aren't we just equal amounts for 5 years? My suspicion would be that the expenditures by the contractor are different for those years, where, they may have some inspection, some light maintenance that first year. They get into some heavier stuff that second year. 26, 27 may run together. That would be my guess.
But they offer a payment plan that allows you to just balance it out.
They do offer that payment plan.
It does cost you a little bit extra.
Marginally, I think it costs us $5,000.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, that might be something. Jane, do you have any thoughts on budgetarily from your 25 years of doing this? That you would
I always
prefer?
like to see you paying in the year for the work you're getting done.
Sure.
One reason, not that this company's gonna go out of business, but what if we had a higher expense, then all of a sudden the next year they're like, we're defaulting. And then try to get that money back from them you've already paid.
Just pay for the work that's been completed.
Right.
Kind of like a gas generator we would.
Right.
Since 2019.
Good example.
Jane, I like what you said. I agree totally, because why pay a higher amount when they really didn't do nothing? And I think
I was just curious from a budgeting standpoint of, because if you look at it, roughly you're gonna average.
They're carrying us on some of this, you know, because based on the last year, we'd be paying them $3,000 versus an equal amount would be, you know, 55,905. You know, I get it, you know, they got to tack on their cost of money on that too. You know, for budgeting purposes, it's pretty nice just to have need equal amount, you know, you're paying that. You know, this is pretty reputable firm. I don't know that. You never say never, but I don't think they're gonna be closing their doors anytime soon, but I can understand the city treasurer's position on this too, that, you know, she just wants, if the work isn't done, we're not paying for it.
Absolutely,
Right.
appreciate it. Just curious how that worked.
So. We probably should include the option in this motion on which method of
Right.
payment we want to do.
Well, after liking industrial painting, you wanna add option one?
Well, I mean,
If that is the desire of the council.
that's,
I've moved to approve Viking Industrial Painting. Option 1 for the payment plan as qualified consultants for repair and maintenance of city water tanks and authorize the council president to sign the agreement.
Second.
we have a motion by Councilman Dupierre and a second by Councilman Block. There's no further discussion. Council, please vote.
Four yes, one absent.
Motion carried. All right, moving on under water, request for $782.82 towards the repair bill. Of Miss Maxey.
So we're just waiting to find out what, I guess you guys.
Okay.
What we were gonna do,
You didn't have anything new to present or,
No.
okay,
it's the same, I mean, I have, well, you guys have a copy of both the
Yep.
bills
we do.
from.
And I'm assuming these are your notes on there.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that too. This is helpful. So. I've been thinking about this for 3 weeks now since we had it. Yeah, you know, we've been back and forth on this. Here's how and I looked at other systems across Nebraska, you know, just Googling them, who owns what. What I found is a lot of communities in Nebraska, our size, the owners are responsible from the main
Which is what we used to.
to the house.
That's what it used to.
That's the way it used to be. We changed that now from the main to the curb stop. The city is responsible, the city of laws are responsible. Simply because if we install that, we do the corporate, what they call a corporation connection on the main. And if that fails, we're tearing up the street. The curb stop is generally on the property owner's property. Not saying they all are, because some we're finding are in various locations, so. I did look up, the house is 90 years old, built in 1935. And I don't know if the shut off coming in from the service line had ever been replaced.
Yeah,
but
I don't know previous, I mean, we've been in the house since 2000.
He said that, yeah, he said that was a gate valve. He called it a globe valve.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
that even means, without, I mean,
What they are is just a gate, a flat gate that shuts it off. Now they're using ball valves
oh, yeah.
that turn in there that
Mhm.
don't necessarily corrode or build up with all the calcium in the water.
Correct.
So the owner is responsible for in Ogallala for the curb stop. In all the plumbing within that. Okay.
And my question to me, I guess, is, would it be like, I mean, okay, to that valve to the house? Or it
Including-
includes the valve?
including the valve, the curb stop, the
Okay.
long thing that. And if you bear with me, I'll get to that. So the water department has been on a process of changing out these meters, and meters fail. I built my house in 87, and I'm on my second meter. Fortunately, I had a ball valve that I was able to shut it off. So when they went into the house, they tried to shut the water off at that gate valve. It was not operable. They could not get it shut off or completely shut off. It must have started leaking then. Or didn't leak. Anyway, they couldn't get it shut off to change the meter. They go to the curb stop outside to shut it off. And the curb stop, it was operable. It was a little sticky, but what they do is they exercise some of these, which we read. So the curb stop was operable, but when they manipulated the curb stop, a piece of galvanized pipe on the service line side that connected to your copper line.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's what
And that's
failed.
what we.
That's
have-
that's what failed.
And we saw that, but we also saw the valve itself.
Yep.
And the plumber said the valve itself
So-
was replaced as well.
And where my head is at on this, somehow I need to reconcile this, so. Every time someone from the water department goes in and touches something. And it fails because of age or corrosion or whatever, that, we're not picking up. Thousands of dollars worth of bills that is gonna impact everyone in the community. But I also understand your predicament and that it was kind of a shock to you, so. Hear me out, and council, here, this. I may make this into a motion later, but I'd like some discussion from the council. What I would consider fair, and I would see this not violating our code anyway, which, city manager Wilkins, he's got to follow code. And if we start paying for things that, would be the owner's responsibility, that should come to the council for a decision. So his thought is, here's code, here's what we have to do, it's owner's responsibility, the owner pays for it. Okay. But city was involved, so the valve inside, that wasn't operable. That should have been fixed. We go outside, we turn curb stop. And that's when the leak starts. So what I would, and as that's dug out. We direct a plumber to put in a new curb stop. I don't know that anybody told you that we were gonna put in a new curb stop, or if they just put it in.
He mentioned something about it, but then he made phone calls and they said that we're changing it out.
So here's what I would offer up, and I'd like the council to consider this too. I would propose that the city would pay for the curb stop, the valve itself. We would pay for half of the labor to install the curb stop and fix that short piece of pipe that failed. But I would not recommend paying for any of the labor on the work inside the home. Cause that definitely is the owner's responsibility. What could have happened is the water department could have got in there, found out the valve wasn't operable. They could have stopped and said, you need to change your valve. Your plumber would have been outside, he would have turned the curb stop.
Then it would have been.
And we would have the same thing. The curb stop didn't fail, and it wasn't gonna fail. It was the pipe on the service side that where it was leaking on
It was
that,
about
so.
50-50.
Yeah,
The
so what-
valve was going bad.
So what I would offer up is, we would do, the backhoe, half of that is 175, the valve is 144, half the labor was 315. Right from your notes.
Mhm.
That totaled $634. I think it would be fair, for the city, again, I can reconcile with that.
I would be okay with that.
And the 634. I can look our guys in the eye and say, you know what? This. We have some responsibility in this. What happened on the inside of the house, that's unfortunate,
Yeah,
but,
I can live with that.
okay.
I can, I. I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's. It also opens up can of worms for if this were to happen to other properties in the future, but I think in this situation. I'd go along with that motion, but looking at the bill. Like, would the coupling be part of the curb stop as well? There's a $38 charge for the coupling and a $12 charge for the soft copper, so that should add,
That would have been on the service side of the line.
okay.
Behind, that would be from the curb stop to the house.
Yeah, that'd be fixing that. Whatever plumber did that before.
Yeah.
Did some really janky stuff.
Yeah,
We're
whoever
fully-
put in the service line from the curb stop, they put in galvanized pipe and it rusted. And it was right at a 90.
Yeah, it did, and it came off the thing
And
at
it's-
90, and then at 90 again,
And
and it did this.
and It blew right through that 90.
Yeah,
Well, I'd be okay to reverse the 634.
I would too.
Yeah.
Is that a motion?
I'd just like to go a step farther. I think we really need to look at writing like a special ordinance in regards to this very, very specific thing. When we come in to do a meter upgrade, how we're gonna handle this going forward. So that way we have a clear policy, right? I know that's not why we're here tonight, but I do think the council, we need to look at a special ordinance for this very specific
Yeah,
situation.
I don't think we need an ordinance. I just think we need to clear up our policy and have a written policy that here's how we're gonna handle it.
well, and
And
I think like you said, if you mentioned that your plumber, if he would have, when he saw that valve wasn't working, he stopped right then and there. And then said, hey, you need to get somebody to fix this,
Yeah.
then we'll come in, I mean, then that puts it on us. And I would have fully been okay with that,
yeah,
but to where
I agree.
literally did all this
That's
without my knowledge,
So you're saying better communication?
yeah.
totally agree. Policy,
Totally.
you
I
know
mean,
what?
if he would have said, said, hey, I can't do this until you fix this. I would have been way happier with.
Well, and he would have told you, hey, your valve's not operable, so if you
Yeah.
have an emergency here, you gotta shut your water off.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get it shut off.
So I mean,
That
most
was,
of it that turned into something that was supposed to be free and hell turned into a massive.
well,
my part.
you got a new meter, not to love to get one, but I'm low on the list. So, lucky me.
Yeah.
I do agree with your communication thing, because then you don't have the sticker shock.
Yeah,
Your
exactly,
plumber's gonna tell you it's gonna cost X amount of money,
exactly.
And I totally agree with Councilman Dupierre. We need a very clear policy on this. On how it's handled and communicated, because I bet you had no idea what a curb stop was.
Not until this whole thing happened,
Yeah.
they started digging the hole in my front yard, which
Yeah.
is huge.
Yeah.
And it's slowly filling, I mean, I got a big old mound with a big old sump hole right now. Until that ground settles.
So. Did I make that motion?
It sounded like you did.
I did.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilman Kraski and a second by Councilman Dupierre to. Pay $634 towards the plumbing repairs. To. The Maxi property, well, however,
Put their address in the motion. Okay.
there's no further discussion.
I do have just one quick thing. I'd like it noted what the total bill was for the whole thing, just. for
The
point
inside
of
and
record.
outside.
We have that in the record in the.
Yeah, just-
So it's there.
The curb
Okay.
stop
It's
repair
in-
was $1,174.
Yep. We're paying about half of it, pretty close to half of that bigger bill.
Little, yeah, a little less.
Any other discussion? Not, could council please vote?
Four yes, one absent.
Motion carried. Thank you for your patience. We
Thank
move
you.
kind of slow, but we get there.
That's all right.
Deliberate.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, report of city attorney.
I do not have it.
You don't wanna talk about the trip? Wouldn't wanna pull it. Oh.
Report of city manager.
I will, in your regular email update, there was apparently an email that I sent that got lost in Nederland, just something I sent by them, but it does note that we have 27 failed curb stop letters that have not been acted upon, that I just found out about as I've inquired as it relates to this taxi issue that we're gonna have to figure out how to address, but some of them may be here. Talked to John talking through this with John, for whatever reason, we haven't been enforcing these curb stop letters. I think we need to. And that will relate to a need for policy going forward as we deal with these. The other thing is that he's noting about a 5%, 5 to 10% failure rate as they go out and change these meters on failed curb stops or failure rates. He's guessing about 5 to 10%. He gave me another rough estimate that I won't hold him to, that 20 to 30% of these curb stops are not necessarily right at the property.
Yeah.
Which is problem.
You know, I know Councilman Dupier and I talked about maybe the city assuming ownership of curb stop, which. You know, it's that much, the cost of the curb stop, isn't. You know, a big expense. The problem is on some of these older locations, it's getting to them. And if there's concrete over them, or if there's a deck over them.
I think one of the things on that, I know there's a financial aspect to it. We have to discuss it. We have to really try to see what it's gonna cost us, but you know, the meters that we can't get to, what I would propose on that is if we've got to come in and replace it, you know, if we have an issue with the curb stop or it's hidden somewhere, we dig it up at a place that makes sense at the property line or very, very close to the property line. We dig up the water line, we put a curb stop there, we abandon the old one.
That's, I thought of that too. I don't know that. You know, I don't know what the service line would be, or, you know, I don't want to talk to people service about this too, because if we would abandon it. Then do we have any responsibility if that would fail?
Start leaking.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if we'd have a good curb stop, then we could shut it off, but.
My biggest thing in all of this is I just wanna see us discuss it with the right people, with people services. Really do our due diligence before we just start writing policy on it. I mean, I'll be very clear, in my opinion, I think that the curb stop needs to be the responsibility of the city. But I understand there's a lot that comes with it, and all I'm asking for is that we discuss it.
Would you like to see us workshop that in a council session with people service?
That'd be good.
Sure. Where would that go under, would that go under? Or it wouldn't necessarily have to be an action item if it was just a.
Not discussion, but we can direct you to do something from there, but. You know, again, in looking at other communities.
Well, we
I don't-
can't be.
I don't wanna get back to take it all the way to the main, but that could be an option too, that we revert back to what all the other communities or seems like are doing. It's like take it,
And part of our challenge as it relates to Mr.
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. As it relates to this, I mean, part of it is no good deed goes unpunished. And we've let things go and we've let things get by, and now we're in a situation where dealing with them is a steeper hill than if we had just dealt with them all the way along.
I agree, well. Getting off track, but. You know, I think during our budget session, we may be discussing, our own full-time code enforcement officer.
And Chief and I had that discussion.
Okay. Anyway, continuing on your project update.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Board of Health, we have not met, but we'll probably be having one. Here in July or August. We've been meeting as needed and. Nothing really jumping out, yeah. We. I talked to Kevin about, the apartments. Out by Walmart. Red Dev, right?
Red Dev.
Red Dev apartments.
Rev.
Rev, yeah. Those could be considered a nuisance, so.
And we have scheduled a meeting with them on Monday.
So if the Board of Health needs to. Get involved in that, I mean, we can, I don't see there's a Board of Health issue for a nuisance, but. Whatever the process be. The good news is for the Ogallala Community Hospital and Health Foundation, Gary Schreiner, the authority president, had talked to Banner. And Banner is not interested in any participation in our ambulance service facility building. So he said the authority will work with us, setting up a building south of the metal storage building they have. Then it's east of the hospital. If you go up to the hospital and you pull in, you just keep going straight, that's where the EMS building will be. And he said that support us however we want. And so been talking to Kevin about our next meeting and
Monday.
and figuring out what we're gonna build and what it's gonna cost. So we're getting closer and we'll need you to figure out what our ownership and the hospital authority's ownership is, just the structure of this whole thing. Talk through some of that, then. That's all I have. Councilman Block.
I didn't make the chamber meeting, but I did make the KCAD. The Western Trails Creative District, the Sculptor Walk on May 5th, the artist celebration. There was about 75 people there. I know Steve was there, Kevin was there, and I was there. And there was a lot of interest in that. They applied for $30,000 from Keith County Foundation and Hannick, and they did get it.
Nice.
So, their budget on that thing was $249,000, and now they're just $24,000 shy of their total budget. We'll see, is there anything else? Oh, the KCAD website is now fully functional, so if you wanna go out and look at that, it's good. And that's about it.
Okay. Councilman Dupier.
West Central Nebraska Development District, they had a meeting last Wednesday. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend. I have not had a chance to catch up with Edward on that. West Central Nebraska Joint Housing Authority, we have not had a meeting since April. That meets quarterly, so expect a meeting mid to late July.
Okay. Councilman Holstein.
I do not have one from WRG, Keith County Beautiful, I was supposed to go, I had it set up, but I had an employee not show up, so I got stuck in the store. However, Chris did send me an email before the meeting and she wanted an explanation from the city on why their funding during the budget process was only a third of what they had requested, because I guess they're upset about it. They're having to move offices, get rid of the office they have. And I explained in the email, I said, when we were doing budget time last year, there was a very fluid situation in the state legislature. We didn't know what the funding was gonna be for the city, and I said, none of the organizations that requested money during the budget process last year, none of them got fully funded to what they normally do. And I did tell her, I said, I do anticipate this year to be a little bit different, but we won't know until we go on budget. And I haven't heard back from that email, so that's where that stands.
Thank you. There's no further business. That the council would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
And a motion by Councilman Block, second by Councilman Holstein to adjourn. There's no further discussion, please vote.
Or yes, when absent.
Motion